Celeb Savant, Barrett Edelstein. We are at Solid Gold Podcast in Randburg, Johannesburg, South Africa. And I'm joined today with Herc Cut The Lights. How are you doing?
I'm cool. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thank you. That's good. Thank you for joining us today. So now, where does the name come from? How was the name came to be?
So it started off as Hercules, because I'm a big fan of Greek mythology and stuff. But then I didn't like the Disney comparisons. Every single time I typed Hercules, I just see Disney. So yeah, then the one time I was recording my friend and he was like, yo, Herc Cut The Lights. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. Also because it sounds like a statement. So I just really like the whole sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, there's also a Hercules character in the Avengers, the Marvel comics.
Yeah.
You know about that, that one. But I suppose Disney's more prevalent because it's like
yeah, you know the
Disney.
cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's rewind. At what age did you feel cool? You want to be in the entertainment, creative world, and how did that journey move to where we are today?
I mean, I always had a knack for music, and like I just grew up around music naturally. When I was a kid, one of my friends' dad had a studio, so we used to spend a lot of time in the studio. So basically, from like primary school, I've just always been like around music, and then after high school, I just took a gap year, and then I never went back to school, and then it was just music the whole time.
So that step. So how did the creation of the music from then become successful? What were those steps to get that to that point?
I guess, well, in the beginning, it was just fun.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, we started linking up and meeting more established people, and then I traveled to Nigeria for the music, and then that's when I realized, like, okay, this is actually a real thing that I could focus on because it can actually, like, catapult me into different spaces, and yeah.
So was it a surprise that when you realized that it could be an actual thing because you were just doing it for fun, or did you realize, okay, we've laid the groundwork, it actually makes sense?
It actually made sense from the beginning because, like I said, I grew up, like, around a lot of musicians, so it was always something that, like, we looked at, and I saw some mistakes that the older guys made that I could fix, and then that's how I made it better.
Okay, so this is interesting. How did you see these mistakes, and what were they, and how did you realize you could fix them?
Obviously, just also understanding that as much as it's an entertainment industry, it's also a job. So I guess a lot of people in the beginning, like, if you don't really know what you're doing, it kind of just feels like you're having fun and you don't really treat it like a job. So that's one thing that I realized that some guys didn't do. So once they did get spotlight, it was always like about the spotlight and the club. But for me, I realized that the actual asset is the music and the work. And then everything else comes after. And then if you take care of the music, then the music will take care of you. So, yeah.
Oh, this is interesting. So would you also potentially say that go there, perform, have fun, and then just sort of party or whatever, not necessarily party, but just be relaxed in it, compared to going there, see who to connect with, not necessarily fans, more in the industry world, the music industry, to create more steps for them beyond that show. So instead of seeing it as a silo thing, they could see it as a bigger picture.
Yeah. Also just, like, not getting lost in what's happening, because, like, a lot of things move fast in the music industry, so it's always important just to remain grounded and understand why you started doing what you're doing.
Okay, understood that. It can happen fast, but sometimes to get to that fast point is a slow point.
Yeah.
You're like, when is this going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then boom, boom, boom.
And before you know it, you're in the deep end.
Yeah. Okay. So from 0 to 3 to 4 minutes in creating a song or a creativity or creating music. Is it easy every time? What motivates it? What invigorates it? Let's unpack your creative brain.
It's not the most easiest thing because, like, I'm always trying to get, like, a feeling out of a song, and I'm never trying to make the same song, whether it be production or lyric-wise. So I always have to kind of, like, channel my mind and put myself into a space to be able to create. Because sometimes I do, like, feel like a lack of inspiration because I also do a lot of engineering and mixing, so there's a lot of technical stuff when it comes to engineering, but when it comes to production, there's more creativity.
Okay.
So then I always just have to separate myself and, like, dedicate time to engineering and then take a break, go experience life, and then when I'm ready for production, try and emit what it is that I'm feeling.
So when you say engineering, is it for yourself or for other people, or both?
Other people.
Other people.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you do it for yourself as well, or not? When you,
I mean, yeah, I do mix and master all my songs, but like, I do a lot of live stage performances for Scorpion Kings. But yeah, just mixing and mastering projects, yeah, for a lot of the artists that I work with.
okay, and does it sometimes get overwhelming knowing that, okay, I'm doing all this stuff for all these other artists and then I have to create for myself as well? Do you need to take sometimes take a couple of weeks and say, okay, nothing, no music?
It gets really overwhelming. Like, she even knows, like, it gets overwhelming because sometimes I really have to pull myself out and be selfish and just give myself time to relax. Because, like, a lot of the times, like, everything I'm doing is for the other artists, even though it is helping me in my career.
Yes.
It's like I sometimes don't focus on the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing for myself. So it does get overwhelming. It does get overwhelming.
I don't think it's being selfish. It's just like standing in your power.
Yeah.
So you've referenced that you mix and master for other artists, and then you collaborate with artists for your own productions.
Yeah.
Have you collaborated with all the artists you've mixed and mastered for in your world, or not necessarily?
All the artists I collaborate with, I mix and master for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I prefer to handle most of the final mixes of all the work that it is that I do. So every artist that it is that I produce for, I mix and master. Because I know how I want the beat to sound. Because sometimes when you send off your song to another engineer, they might reduce the kick and it doesn't hit as hard.
Okay.
So I've been able to find the balance in between what it is that I like and what the artist likes.
Okay.
So
Now, what's coming up next?
obviously I have my new single out now, Talague, with Strava Black here and Youngsteiner. So we're working on the video on that. Just basically just trying to expand the musical expression, especially with the record. I mean, like, I'm a hip hop producer, but with this one I chose to go with Afro, just to challenge the whole narrative of younger guys actually tapping into their culture more. So yeah, the next stuff is definitely the video, but there's a whole lot of work that I'm working on. There's a couple of albums that I've finished that I've submitted. Riky Rick's album is on the way. Blackie just released an EP now, See You Soon. That came out last week Friday, so yeah, it's quite a lot on the way.
So those were your production?
Yeah.
Your
Production and engineering.
Engineering.
Yeah, production.
But you didn't feature yourself as an artist on
No,
those?
I only started like releasing music. This single is my first single.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my first single. And it's not me on the vocals.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just me on the production and on the entire direction of the record.
Okay, so now, why did it take you so long to decide to release your own record?
It's because of the way I wanted to articulate the music. And I just felt like I wasn't ready sonically to give the people what it is that I wanted and what I was hearing.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of like growing and training myself into learning how to produce and engineer so that I could deliver at a level.
And what was the thing that allowed you to think, okay, I'm ready now? Was there any specific moment or?
When my mom started singing my song, that's when I knew that I'm finally making music for a greater crowd than myself. Because in the beginning, we used to make music just for us.
Yes.
But then when my mom started singing the songs, that's when I knew that the songs are connecting further than what we used to. So then that's when I felt like, okay, now this is the beginning of a whole new journey. And
you referenced a little bit earlier that you normally produce hip-hop, but now you've branched out into Afro.
Yeah.
So as it is a little bit out of the comfort zone, so was there a bit of hesitation to do it, or did you just dive straight in and think, okay, let me push myself there?
I mean, there wasn't hesitation at all, because I grew up listening to a lot of Afro. My dad listened to a lot of Kizomba. So there wasn't a lot of hesitation. For me, it was just like a thing of not knowing how to make an Afro beat, and that's why I didn't do it. Okay. Yeah.
And through training and production and learning of these years and traveling, it allowed you to learn that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love me a CD. Okay. I still budget for my CDs every month. I'm not sure if you're aware, CDs, cassettes, and vinyls are a massive comeback all around the world.
Yeah.
Cassettes even, but mainly vinyls. Last year in the UK, 5.9 million vinyls, the biggest since 1990. Now, in the UK, there's a basket of products that they use to gauge income tax. vinyls have been in this basket for a number of years. CDs, because of the upward trajectory and massive people, and it's the younger people buying them, not the older people, that product is now back in the basket for income tax. In Thailand, they've just opened a vinyl factory that's been closed for 50 years. But we've also got these streaming platforms where people consume music on. What is your perceptions and observations of the landscape at the moment?
I mean, the way that music is consumed now has definitely changed a lot in terms of who can release music. Because I guess like 20 years ago when there was vinyls and CDs, the record labels had the monopoly because then they could control the distribution of everything.
Yeah.
And then that's how record label deals were important. So now with Spotify and Apple Music, it just gave the people more power and more access to release music. So I think like with the whole vinyl situation and how it's coming back now, it definitely creates an attachment for the music. Because when it's on your phone, it's like you can just skip and it's like it's not that cool. But if you see the actual vinyl, it's like it's a relic or, yeah.
And it's experience, because for me, when I get my CD, it's like, it's a journey of the choice, the journey of the receiving, the unpacking, the booklets, listening to song from 1 to whatever number. It's like a whole journey and experience where you like, where it's fun. I don't like this one. Let's just skip. So completely, I hear and agree with what you're saying. And you obviously have collaborated with a number of artists that you've had second or third or fourth collaborations with. When you're collaborating with artists you've never collaborated with before, is it just diving straight in, or is it a moment of understanding where each others are, getting an understanding of each other's personalities, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I like to get to know the person first. Sometimes we'll go have lunch, just have a gauge on music taste, listen to different music. And then sometimes it actually even takes like 3 or 4 sessions before I usually start creating with an artist, just so I understand what it is that they're trying to do and what they're looking for. So I never rush like straight into it because I always feel like then it's kind of going to be misarticulated.
Yeah. Okay. And bucket list of 3 arts. No, let's make it 5. 5 local, and let's put it out there, international artists that you have yet to collaborate with, which are on your bucket list at this moment. I know it'll change all the time, but in this moment in time.
Thames, Drake, Travis Scott, Asake, and Lil Wayne.
Okay. Those came quickly.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, another little game I'm going to play with you. So I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 minutes, 10 years, 5 minutes, 50 years, I know your answer will be different every time. And I recognize that and I understand that because there are millions of them. I'm not saying favorite, I'm saying top of mind. If you had to push play to 5 songs once we finish this conversation, what would those 5 songs be and by whom?
Yosemite by Travis Scott. Asibe Happy by Kabza the Small. It's tricky. Amelie by Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
Ooh.
2 more. This is when it starts to get difficult. Just first 2 that come to mind.
Future Feds Did a Sweep. Young Thug. What Young Thug song? Digits.
There we go. I like that. Okay, so you've referenced that production is more on the creative side, whereas mix and mastering is more technical.
Yeah.
So I'd like to understand these for the listeners who are not in the industry, who don't understand what these words mean. What does it mean to be a producer, and how is it creative?
I mean, obviously it starts with the beat, the instrumental production, and just song arrangement. So even being a producer, you don't have to know how to make a beat to be a producer. You can't be a producer just by directing a song, being like, okay, maybe I think at this point of the song we can have more drums, and just basically arrangement.
Okay.
So yeah.
So coming up with the concepts and ideas of how the journey of the song starts to how it ends, putting inputs around that.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And when it comes to that, how much, and I'm guessing it might be different every time, but can you confirm that when you're producing a song, how much is it input from yourself compared to the artist, or is it different every time and it depends who you're collaborating with?
It's different every time because sometimes I'll
Thought so.
make beats on my own, and then sometimes I'll just have a melody. Sometimes the artist will be like, yo, I have this bounce. Can we start with this bounce? So it differs. it definitely differs because obviously you don't want the music to sound the same. So I'm open to like working, starting with drums or starting with a melody. Just, yeah.
Mix and mastering, you referenced it's technical. What does that mean?
It's a lot of maths, a lot of calculation. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What do you explain?
Yeah, because obviously, like, it's the ultimate loudness of the song, how loud the song is, just to make sure the bass isn't distorting so that when the listener listens, they receive the music smoothly rather than a harsh song. So, yeah, there's just a lot of numbers that go into it, measuring the sound, how loud the song is, and yeah.
And I suppose also it's about balancing the different instruments when they're playing together and the person's voice so that none of the instruments overpower the person's voice and you can still hear clearly what they... Am I understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. And, wow, maths. I never knew maths came in.
Yeah, because there's decibel measurements.
Oh, my God.
Frequencies and all that stuff.
So again, I'm gathering maybe it will be different every time, but how long would it take to mix and master 3 to 3.5 minute song? Or is it, again, different depending on how many people are singing, how many instruments, or...
I mean, with me, when I start my records, I already start off with the process of it being mixed and mastered. So usually by the time the song is done being recorded, it's ready to be pushed out. But if it's someone else's song, it may take me like maybe 3 hours.
Oh, okay, not so bad. So are those, when you see studios, those studios with all those buttons and knobs and stuff, is that all the stuff there that's used for production and mix and mastering?
Yeah. But there's a lot of digital softwares now.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why it's easier for a lot of people to have access to DAW softwares because before you needed the big studios and the SSL boards.
Yes.
But now you have the actual softwares and the DAWs, so you can do everything on your computer. So.
And has the digitalization of it taken away some of, and I'm sure I need to come to the correct words, has the digitalization of it taken away some of the authenticity of the human interaction with it?
Yeah.
Do you understand my question?
To a certain point it does because like even like with the piano, like there's a difference with real-time piano instead of just drawing it on the board and it's like 1 4 4 4.
Yeah.
It kind of like loses its feel. So I definitely do think the hardware has changed a lot because even with like a lot of the processors, they actually get warmer the longer you use them. So then the vocal sounds thicker. So now without those processors, it doesn't have that room to get warm anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, just basically affects how the vocal sounds, whether the vocal is as warm as it would be in the big studio. So yeah.
What do you mean by warm?
Just like, I don't know how to break it down. I'm trying to find a way to break it down.
Okay.
But just like thick.
Okay.
In terms of like.
Yes. So instead of it sounding like one-dimensional, hollow, and watery, it's three-dimensional.
It's more upfront and yeah.
Okay, got it, understood. Now, obviously, not all producers are mixers and masters, correct? So, having had, which one did you start first?
Production.
Production.
Yeah.
And how long into it did you then go into the technical side?
So I started making beats in 2015, and then engineering basically started happening during around COVID, so around 2019.
So was that because you knew how you wanted the beats to sound and you didn't really feel like delegating?
Yeah.
And you felt that in the pod?
And also because we couldn't afford engineers.
Okay.
So we had to learn on our own just basically how to get it done.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that was the reason why you did it?
Yeah.
And now in understanding engineering and production, has it helped either side? Obviously, it must do.
Yeah, obviously, because then I started understanding exactly what it is that I wanted and how I wanted to sound, and it also helped with direction. So, yeah.
Okay. So, what is your perceptions on social media?
In the beginning, I wasn't big on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because of naturally being a producer, you just used to being in the background.
Yes.
So I wasn't always big on social media, but now, obviously, because I'm releasing music, I have to put myself out there more. So it's something that I'm definitely still getting comfortable with, but yeah.
This is an interesting conversation because you were behind the scenes for the longest periods of time, and now you're becoming more in front of the scenes or in the limelight. Besides the social media side, are there aspects about it that you are actually surprised that you didn't realize that were part of it? or seeing the other artists and collaborating with them as you have gave you sort of a peripheral view of what to expect?
Okay, could you ask that again?
Okay, sure. So previously, for the longest time, you were behind the scenes, as you mentioned, with social media. So now that you're more in front of the scenes and more in the limelight, are there aspects of being in the limelight that you didn't realize was part of being in it? Or just because you've been in the industry for so long, it was just observing the others and you knew, okay, this is going to happen when I'm more in the limelight?
Yeah, I think it's just observing other people and then just seeing how other people did it. And then obviously, because there's kind of like a template. So I just basically used the same template as the other people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then knew what not to do, observing them because they did a few things wrong.
Obviously still learning. But yeah.
Okay. So the podcast is listened to throughout the world. So as a final message, what would you like to say?
Don't give up on your dreams, for real. Because like when I started doing it, a lot of people didn't believe in what I was doing. So no one really knows what you're doing until you get it done. So yeah.
So guys, as Herc says, don't give up on your dreams. Keep pursuing them. It doesn't matter what the naysayers say. They don't know what you're doing. So just let them see it when it comes to involvement. This is Celeb Savant signing out.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.